In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Prophet Suleiman, the son of David, prayed, "My Lord, forgive me and grant me a kingdom that will not befit anyone after me. Indeed, you are the bestower." This prayer of Prophet Suleiman was answered. He was among the prophets whom Allah, the Almighty, granted what he had not given to any other messenger or creation. Allah, the Almighty, bestowed upon Suleiman, peace be upon him, both prophethood and kingship, making him one of the 4 kings who ruled the east and west of the earth. Allah, the Almighty, bestowed upon Suleiman, peace be upon him, immense favors and control over his creatures, including humans, jinn, birds, and the wind. He made the copper flexible for him, and Allah, the Almighty, endowed him with the knowledge of the language of animals and birds. He also granted him a vast army comprising humans, jinn, and various creatures. All these beings and creatures obeyed Suleiman's commands. When Suleiman saw something on the distant horizons or even closer, the birds and jinn would bring to him what he desired. And when he wished for actions beyond human capability, he would command the jinn, and they would promptly execute, for Allah, in his wisdom, had made their means of punishment under Suleiman's control. Suleiman, the son of David, ruled over both humans and jinn thousands of years ago. He was a prophet of Allah, the Almighty, and succeeded the rule of the prophet David, who was also appointed by Allah to govern the land with justice and wisdom. David was sent as a prophet to the children of Israel, establishing justice and combating the transgressions of the disbelievers. Allah, the Almighty, granted Suleiman, peace be upon him, to succeed David, making him a prophet as well. It is believed that Suleiman was born in Palestine, specifically in the city of Gaza. Abu al-Yaman al-Alimi mentioned in his book, Al-Anz al-Jalil, that Gaza takes pride in being the birthplace of Prophet Suleiman and Imam al-Shafi'i, and this alone would suffice for its honor. Alternatively, some say Suleiman was born in Jerusalem and was raised there. The exact date of his birth is not mentioned in the books, but it is believed that he lived for 52 years. As for the description of Suleiman, peace be upon him, he was a prophet of Allah with a fair complexion, radiant and beautiful, with abundant hair. He often wore white garments. He was a devoted believer, humble and devout. Suleiman would interact with people, particularly the poor, mixing with them and saying, "A poor person sitting with the poor." His father, David, peace be upon him, consulted him on many matters during his reign, despite Suleiman's young age. The completeness of intellect was among the blessings that Allah, the Almighty, bestowed upon Suleiman, peace be upon him. Suleiman was granted dominion over the world and everything in it. This is mentioned by al-Tabari, may Allah have mercy on him, in his history, citing Ibn Abbas and Ibn Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with them both, as well as some companions of the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. They said, the kings who ruled the entire earth were 4, Nimrod, Suleiman son of David, Dhul-Qarnayn, and Biktunasar. Allah, the Almighty, also bestowed upon Suleiman the grace of controlling the strong and powerful stormy winds. These winds would blow by his command, allowing Suleiman to travel from one place to another in the Blessed Land, from the deserts of Palestine to Iraq. The wind served as the internal transportation for his kingdom, all by the permission of Allah, the Almighty. This wind could travel a distance in one go equivalent to a month's journey. Al-Hasan al-Basri, may Allah have mercy on him, said, Suleiman would have his morning meal in Damascus, then descend with the wind to a city called Istar, an ancient city located in Iran, where he would have his midday meal. From there, he would travel swiftly and spend the night in Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan today. The distance between each of these cities was a month's journey for a fast traveler. Allah, the Almighty, also subjugated the devils and jinn to Suleiman. They obeyed his commands. The jinn and devils would dive into the sea by his order to retrieve treasures and precious items for him. They would diligently carry out any task he requested of them, tasks that were difficult and beyond the capability of humans. The devils also followed Suleiman's orders in crafting ships, statues, and cauldrons. Cauldrons refer to large containers in which people eat. These cauldrons were massive, accommodating food for dozens of men. They would also craft upright cauldrons, large vessels that couldn't be moved from their place, sufficient to cook food for hundreds of people. Allah, the Almighty, concealed these devils in such a way that people couldn't see them as they worked on these tasks, and the people were unaware of their presence. Suleiman had the power to control some of the disobedient jinn, showcasing the extent of his kingship, a level of authority unparalleled after him. Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, said, "A devil from the jinn attempted to interfere with my prayers last night, but Allah gave me the power over him. I wanted to tie him to one of the pillars of the mosque so that you all could see him in the morning. However, I remembered the supplication of my brother Suleiman, my Lord, grant me a kingdom that will not befit anyone after me. So, I let him go as a humble captive." Suleiman utilized his kingship and glory to invite people to Allah, the Almighty, spreading the message of monotheism. He held a greater position than his father Dawood, peace be upon him, and rendered judgments surpassing him. Dawood, peace be upon him, was a devout servant of Allah, and Suleiman, peace be upon him, was his son with a profound influence, peace and blessings be upon him both. Suleiman's residence was in the city of Tadma, present-day Palmyra in Syria. The jinn constructed it using sheets, white and yellow marbles, known for its abundant historical artifacts and unique architecture, along with its immense fortifications. In Tadma, Suleiman built a grand palace, encompassing numerous courtyards, corridors, and chambers, all constructed using a single type of stone. Remarkably, this structure still stands today. Suleiman also established a commercial fleet, weapons manufacturing facilities, and military headquarters. During his reign, civilization flourished as never before, as Allah, the Almighty, combined for Suleiman the realms of kingship, wisdom, and prophethood. Suleiman also built the Holy House, Beit al-Maqdis, in Jerusalem. Allah, the Almighty, decreed that whoever prays in Al-Aqsa Mosque, the farthest mosque, will leave it free from all sins, as if they were born on the day their mother gave birth to them. This was based on a request from his father Dawood, peace be upon him. Narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with them both, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Indeed, when Suleiman built Beit al-Maqdis, he asked his Lord for 3 things, and he granted him 2. I hope that he will grant him the 3rd. He asked for judgment that coincides with God's judgment, and it was granted. He asked for a kingdom the likes of which no one after him would have, and it was granted. He asked for the condition that anyone who leaves his home solely for the purpose of performing prayer in this mosque, referring to Al-Aqsa Mosque, would be free of sin as the day their mother gave birth to them. The Prophet, peace be upon him, added, we hope that Allah has granted him this. Our master Suleiman assembled his army from among the jinn, humans, and birds. They all followed him, a tremendous favor granted by Allah, the Almighty, to Suleiman because he was both a prophet and a king. No one could oppose him, for both the authority of kingship and prophethood were in his hands. Allah, the Most High, stated, and gathered for Suleiman were his soldiers of the jinn and men and birds, and they were marching in rows. Our master Suleiman had an encounter with ants. As he passed by the valley of ants, he overheard an ant warning its fellow ants to quickly enter their dwellings to avoid being unintentionally crushed by Suleiman and his army. This indicates the presence of an ant acting as a lookout, alerting its community about the approaching danger of Suleiman and his soldiers, despite the ants not being able to perceive them. The ant must have seen Suleiman before his arrival at the valley, enabling her to warn her community for appropriate action. Remarkably, the ant identified Suleiman by name and acknowledged him as a prophet of Allah, peace be upon him. Upon hearing this, Suleiman couldn't help but smile at the words. He felt immense gratitude for the great favor Allah, the Almighty, had bestowed upon him through this blessing. Suleiman requested Allah, the Most High, to assist him in showing gratitude for this favor and to never forget this tremendous blessing bestowed upon him. He recognized the unique and exceptional nature of this blessing, which Allah had granted to him beyond all the other prophets who came before him. There is another story about Suleiman, this time involving a bird, not an insect or animal. It's the story of the hoopoe. Suleiman, peace be upon him, used birds in his operations to search for water, gather intelligence about nations and people. One of these birds was the hoopoe, which he lost for a day. Suleiman did not seek permission for its absence, prompting him to threaten it with punishment or death if it didn't have a valid excuse. The hoopoe was absent for a while, and upon its return, Suleiman inquired about the reason for its absence. The hoopoe informed Suleiman that it had seen the people of Sheba and their queen, Bilqis, who possessed immense power and wealth. They were worshipping the sun instead of Allah, the Almighty. Upon hearing this, Suleiman wanted to confirm the information and reconsidered his intention to punish the hoopoe. He wrote a letter instructing the people of Sheba to worship Allah alone and handed it to the hoopoe, ordering it to deliver it and observe their reaction. The Queen of Sheba followed the instructions of Suleiman, and when she received the letter, she gathered her advisors to consult them on how to respond. They acknowledged the strength and might of Suleiman's people and were inclined to send a gift to Suleiman, hoping to ease the situation and avoid conflict. When the Queen of Sheba's gift arrived, Suleiman warned her that if she didn't submit, he would send his armies to her. Fearing his might, she decided to visit him. Upon learning of her decision, Suleiman asked his assembly if anyone could bring her throne before she arrived. An Ifrit, strong demon, from the jinn claimed he could bring it to him in the blink of an eye. However, a knowledgeable person among his people suggested that he could bring the throne even before Suleiman could stand up. Following Allah's will, they brought the Queen of Sheba's throne swiftly as suggested. Afterwards, Suleiman instructed his assembly to modify the throne slightly. When the Queen of Sheba arrived and saw the altered throne, Suleiman asked her if this was indeed her throne. She was astonished, almost failing to recognize her own throne due to the modifications made by Suleiman. She had initially mistaken Suleiman's palace for a river due to its magnificence. When she attempted to enter the palace, she had lifted her skirts to avoid wetting them, assuming the ground was covered with water. Witnessing these astounding miracles, she openly declared her submission and surrender to Allah, the Almighty, acknowledging His exclusive sovereignty and oneness without partners. Indeed, the death of our master Suleiman, peace be upon him, was also a miraculous event among the miracles of Allah, the Almighty, and the miracles of his prophet. Suleiman remained deceased for a complete year, leaning on his staff, and he did not fall to the ground by the command of Allah. The jinn tirelessly continued their work around him, fearing the punishment of the prophet of Allah, Suleiman, who they believed was still alive and leaning on his staff. They were unaware that he had passed away. It was only when a termite ate through the staff, causing Suleiman to fall to the ground, that people, jinn, and all creatures learned of his death. In the manner of Suleiman's passing, it served to expose the lies of the jinn who falsely claimed knowledge of the unseen. The jinn did not know of Suleiman's death until they saw him fallen on the ground. During this time, the jinn were preoccupied with the construction of Beit al-Maqdis, the temple in Jerusalem. Allah, the Exalted, has mentioned in the Quran, interpretation of the meaning. So when we decreed for him, Suleiman, death, nothing indicated to the jinn his death except a creature of the earth eating his staff. But when he fell, it became clear to the jinn that if they had known the unseen, they would not have remained in humiliating punishment. As we conclude the story of Prophet Suleiman, peace be upon him, we implore Allah, the Almighty, to bless us with a good end and the highest level of paradise without any accountability or preceding punishment, through your mercy, O most merciful. This, and Allah is the highest and the most knowledgeable. Peace and blessings be upon the noblest of messengers, and all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all worlds.